Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our Assigning Short Dials and Central Directory webinar. This session should last about 15 minutes, and there will be time for questions at the end. If you can remain muted during the session for me, please, just to reduce any background noise, and any questions, if you wouldn't mind asking those in the chat, and then we'll answer those at the end of the session. Any questions that we don't answer will be sent out with the webinar recording by email as usual. So Surgery Connect Surgery Connect targets users rather than phones. Each person on the system will need their own short dial extension number. You can also set up short dials for groups of users for internal use. So then you can use the group number if you don't mind who you speak to in the team. The group short dials can also be set up as internal contact numbers. If you need to contact maybe one of the GPs, you can put them all into a group, and then you have a group number, and whoever's available would be able to then respond to that call. So during this session, we're going to have a look at assigning user short dial numbers and also group short dial numbers. And we'll look at doing that in both the service delivery console and also the configuration console. We're also going to have a look at the central directory, which is managed through the configuration console, and I'll show you how to enter numbers during the bulk upload. So we're going to look at the service delivery console first, and we're going to look at the user short dial numbers. So to access the service delivery console, if you're in any of the other consoles, so maybe the user console, you can actually use the menu at the top right-hand screen.
Like that? No.
That will then give you a shortcut to the other consoles that are available. So to access the service delivery console, you would just select that from the menu just next to your initials in any of the other consoles. Alternatively, you could return to your single sign-on page, and you can access the service delivery console through that single sign-on page there. Once you've accessed the service delivery console, you'll then need to go to the users section so that you can see the short dial numbers that have been allocated. You can either do that by clicking on the menus at the top of the screen and going to the user section, or if you scroll down on the screen, there'll be a box that says Manage Users, and you can click on that box to take you into the user list. So we now have our users here, and we can see all of the entry here, and we know that we can edit anything on this line using the blue pen. The short dials are here. So short dials are normally a 3-digit extension number, although you can use anything from 3 numbers upwards, depending on how you want to use it within your particular practice. So short dial numbers here can be added or changed. If you want to see any users that don't have a short dial allocated at the moment, if you click on the short dial column header, it will actually sort by the short dial number. That will then bring up anyone who doesn't have a short dial number to the top of the list. You'll have an outbound calls user, and that user doesn't need a short dial number. So the outbound calls user is there to capture any call recordings that are done when somebody makes an outbound call without logging in to the system. So if they're using a desk phone and making an outbound call without logging in, the call recording will show under that outbound call user. So there's no short dial needed to that because it will never be contacted by an individual. But you can see here that we've got a few locums that visit our practice, and we want to allocate a short dial to each of those locums. So to do that, I'm going to click on the blue pen so that I can then edit the line here. So I'm now able to edit what we have here, and I'm going to enter the next short dial number, which for this particular locum is going to be 261. Once I've entered that, I can then click on the green tick to save those changes. When you save the changes, the screen will refresh, and we can now see that our locum 1 here that we've just added that number to has been added into the list and now has extension number 261. If you visit the numbers section within the service delivery console, you'll also see that the system has automatically generated a call flow for extension number 261. so it knows which user to look for when somebody dials that number. If we want to do the same thing for groups and allocate a group short dial through the service delivery console, then we're going to use the menus at the top to go to the groups page. Again, I can click on the short dial header, which will then sort the short dial so that I can see who doesn't have a short dial. So at the moment, I've got a couple of groups here that don't have short dial numbers, and I want to add one to our test results group so that I can call the short dial and go through to whoever is available within this team. I can click on the short dial header again to sort it, as I've seen here, and I'm now going to click on the blue pen so that I can edit that group. Enter the short dial that you want to use, and then click on the green pen. When you're thinking about your short dial numbers, just remember that Surgery Connect doesn't recognise the difference between an internal or an external number. So we usually recommend that users, you would use the 200 numbering range, and that keeps you clear of strange numbers like 111 that might be dialed if that's an extension number for somebody, which could then take you onto an external number. So 200 is the usual numbering range for the users. If you then use a different numbering range, so maybe the 300s or 400s for your groups, it gives a bit of differentiation between dialing an individual or dialing a group number. So we can see now that I've saved that change, we now have our short dial of 311 for our test results number. So to do that during the in the configuration console, if you don't have access to the service delivery console, when you go into the configuration console, the menus down the right-hand side will include a short dial menu. Any new users would need to be added to the system before you could allocate a short dial to them. So if it is a new user, you'll need to speak to the support team to get that added because you're not able to add your own users through the configuration console. Once they're on there, I can then click into short dials. I can then either search for an existing extension number, and we'll have a list of the numbers there as usual, so you can scroll through if you'd like to, or I can click on a new short dial up at the top here to allocate a new number. So I'm going to click on new short dial here. That will then bring up a prompt box, which has then got our new short dial options. So I can allocate the number in here. And then in the destination on the configuration console, you will then select where that number is going to. So it will give you a list of users that you have already on the system. As I say, any new users need to be added before you can allocate that short dial number. Or you can select from the groups in that drop down as well. So within the configuration console, it's the same place to allocate a short dial number for a user as it is to allocate the number for the group. You're just picking a different option from that drop down list. Once you've allocated that, you can then click on save, and that will then save those changes and allocate that short dial number to whichever user or group you've selected from the drop down menu. So we're now going to have a look at the central directory, which again is managed through the configuration console. So we have our menus down the left-hand side of the screen here, and we've got our directory menu. If you click into the directory, that will then allow you to see the entries that are already there, if there are any. And you can also add new numbers either singularly through add new contact, or you can bulk upload. Anything in grey is system generated. So these entries in your central directory are generated by the system when you either create a user or a group. And as you can see, those can't be deleted easily. So they would need to be deleted by actually deleting either the group number or the individual user. These in green have been added into our directory. So you can see that they have then a little delete button that you can delete that entry from the directory if that number ever changes. So if I wanted to upload my bulk contacts, I'm going to click on the bulk upload, and that will then take me to a bulk add contacts screen. I'd recommend that you download the template first of all. It's a very simple template, and you'll be saving it into either an XLSX or a CSV file so you can then upload it. So if you click on the download template, that will then allow you to download the template. And when you open that, it will then come into a CSV file in whichever application you normally use for your spreadsheets. It will give you some headers for the columns, and you just need to fill in the details underneath each of those headers once you've clicked OK to open that page up, and then fill in all the details for your contacts. So if you've already got them in an Excel spreadsheet, you could actually just make sure that the headers match and then upload that into the central directory. Once you've completed entering all the details of your external contacts through this template, you'll then need to save it. So if you do File and Save As, to make sure that you save it as that CSV, XLS or XLSX file. So we can see here that I'm saving it as my central directory, so it's easy for me to find. It's going to be a CSV format, and I'm going to save it into my documents folder so I can find it easily. Once I've clicked on Save, I'll then need to return to our directory and bulk add contacts section so that I can now browse and find that new saved file. So when I click on Browse, it will open up a file browser so that I can go into my documents and select that central directory. When I click OK, it will then bring it up onto the screen. So I've now got my central directory CSV file here, and I can click Upload File. Once the file's uploaded, you'll get a little message just to say it's been processed successfully and if there's been any errors. I can now click on the directory again, and that will take me back to my search screen. I'm now searching for one of the entries that I've just uploaded. So we've got Dr. Test Case here, which is our new external contact. So that is now retrievable through the central directory. So with the central directory, anything on the user console, if you're using it through the screen, will update straight away. So as soon as that's available within the directory, it will be available through the user console. The central directory on your phones, though, will take overnight to update. So they update at midnight each night. So any new numbers that you put onto the system through the central directory will be available on the phones, on the central directory button the next day. I'm going to move over to the user console now so that you can see where we look through that directory. So I've accessed the user console, and then I've clicked on directory icon at the top of the user list. Because it's on the Surgery Connect user console screen, I can use the search option just like I do with my normal internal contacts, so that I can now search this external directory. So when I click on the search button, it will then bring up a search box. I can input my search criteria, so I'm going to search for Dr. Test Case again. Here's my contact details, and when I click on those contact details, it will then bring up the contacts as it would do normally from your directory. So I have his mobile number here, so I can either dial that manually into my phone, or I can use the click to call technology through Surgery Connect by clicking on the call button. It will then ring whichever device I'm making and receiving my telephone calls on. When I answer my call, it will then connect the call to the number that I've requested on the screen. You can also add new contacts to the central directory via the user console. So here we've got a display of the calls list from the user console, and we can see that I've made an outbound call to a contact number. If I then wanted to add that to the central directory, there'll be a little drop down just next to the number, and I can select Add to Central Directory from that drop down. When I click on that, it's going to ask me to give it a name, an email address, and any other details that I've captured. So only the name is a mandatory field. I can then click on Save, and it will be available within the central directory on the user console for everybody to use straight away and on the phones overnight. The directory is a single entry directory, so it won't work for putting in a hospital name and then setting up a department. So it is there really for a single entry per person, but then obviously you can put other contact details for that particular individual. If you do have hospital contact numbers in different departments, if you just put the name of the hospital and the department in the name, you'll be able to search either way then through the central directory function. So today we've had a look at assigning user short dial numbers in both the service delivery console and the configuration console. We've also looked at assigning group short dial numbers and the central directory.